Hello all, a very good evening. Thank you for joining us on today's webinar. Today we're going to talk about few products. If the store is actually talking about the products that a user is looking for, or how do we know whether the store is actually having the products, etc. So before we get started, to get more information or to get updates about the webinars or about DataMine, please like us and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. So we will be identifying the products offered by a store like SET. So what are the contents that we're going to discuss in this particular webinar is we're going to talk about your terminologies. Then we would see how does the job look like, then the rating that we're supposed to give in this particular task, and then the research part. What are the terminologies that we have to understand before going into a deep understanding of this task is, we have to know what an intent is. An intention or an intent is otherwise known as the query intent or a search intent. So what does this mean is we have to identify and categorize what actually is the user looking for when he has typed in that particular query. What is the intention of the user when he has typed in that particular query will become the user intention or the query intention or the search intent. So the next thing that we have to understand is an attribute. So any additional description. So if the query is just shoes, that becomes an intent. So he's looking for a shoe. But then if I add a descriptor, or if I add an attribute, or if I describe what kind of shoes I'm looking for, then those become your attributes or descriptors. So if I am looking for red color Nike shoes, then red and Nike will become my descriptors or attributors, because those are defining what kind of product I'm looking for. We have an example that is a material or a brand or a merchant or a size or color or gender, whatever the user has specified from one of these kinds, you call them as attributes. Then what is a product? A specific product that the user is looking for will become your product. For example, if he's looking for PS5 console, so the user is looking for a PS5 console. So if I'm looking for a Nike red shoes, so I'm looking for shoes with two descriptors, Nike and red. So that's how we have to understand the intention of a user when he's searching for any particular query. So now let's quickly look at how does the task look like on the tool. This is how that overlook of the task on the tool looks like. There are a few things that we have to understand. The first one is the query. The one that is highlighted here is the query. That is the search that the user has made into the search engine when he wants that particular thing. The next one is the result, that is the AI has returned for the query's intent. So we have to see whether the result is actually satisfying the intent of the user, or is it having the product the user is looking for, or is the business same? So that is what we are supposed to see. These two are the primary website and the business details tabs that are there here are there to research the business, that is to research the result business to see if they have the queried terms or not. The ratings here, yes and no, that we have here, and then we have the final submit button. So that is how your tool overall looks like. The one on the right side, the Google one, this tab that you see here is the research for your query. So you have to also understand what is the query looking for before you understand what is the result about. So to understand the queried intent, you use this Google, or to just understand what is the query about, you can always use this. But then we have different research options that we have to look at, which we will be understanding further. The ratings, what are the ratings that we have here? Like I said, we have two ratings. That is, we have to see if the product category has, if the query has a specific store name or a brand name. If yes, yes. If no, no. So that is what we're supposed to do. If it is not a product category business, then we have different thing that we are supposed to do. So let's see. There are a few steps that we have to follow before we go into the rating section. There are 2 steps that we follow. Step 1 is you have to look at the query section that we have already seen. There is a particular section for the query. That is where you have to first start your rating or first start your work with. Then you have to understand what is the product the user is looking for. So what is the user actually looking for when he's trying to type in that particular query into the search engine? Is there a product in the query that the user is actually wanting to look for? Then identify if there are any descriptors in the query. So if there is a query that is mentioned, if there are any descriptors, like said, if there is a merchant, if there is a brand, if there is anything that is specifically mentioned, then those are called descriptors like we discussed before. So you have to identify if any of such descriptors are being added in the query or not. Then understand if the descriptors in the query has what is that they wanted to describe about the product. So now we have identified that the query has a descriptor. The next step after identifying the descriptor is you have to understand how is the descriptor describing the product. That is how you have to understand. So first step is to understand the query, identify the descriptors, and also understand how is the descriptor describing the product that the user is looking for. For example, if you go back and see this particular query that we're looking for, is looking for parts. So the specific or the descriptor that we have here is Toyota. So this particular one is the descriptor. So it is defining what kind of parts that the user is looking for. So this is how we have to understand. The user is looking for parts specifically for Toyota. That's how you have to understand the intention of the query. It is not always that the query is possibly this simple. There could be queries with different intentions possibly. So it is our responsibility to first understand the query's intention prior and then go to the result. So let's go back to step number 2. So the first step in your step number 2 is you have to see how well does the business match the type of the product and the product qualities the user is looking for. So now that we have understood the query, the second thing is we have to understand the result. So the first step in understanding a result is if the business is matching the type of product and the product qualities that the user is looking for. So if I'm looking for Toyota parts, the business has to match the similar kinds of products that I'm looking for. So I cannot replace a Toyota part with a Hyundai part because that doesn't fit the intention of the user. So you have to understand if the business is actually matching the type of product that the user is looking for. So if there are any opinionized words or subjective words such as best, top, or any of those words that change the intention of which changes from person to person. So if I say best, for me best would be a different word altogether. For others something else would be best. So you have to ignore such subjective and opinionized words which change from person to person. Those words have to be ignored. So some of the examples are possibly you could say like best, top quality, cheap. All these words are actually change. So you have to see such descriptors and ignore those if you have it in the query. Next, if a user is looking for specifically looking for a car, let's assume a user is looking for a car, our assumption or we are supposed to assume that the user is looking for a new car or new intent for anything that the user is looking for. He might be looking for a laptop, a phone, a earphone, a car, anything that the user is looking for. The basic assumption is that he's looking for a new item until the query specifies a description such as used or antique or any of those special descriptors are added before the product. We assume that a user is looking for a new intent. whenever you have a seasonal or a rotating stock that is there, please be very careful because sometimes we would be looking for winter wear, and this is a seasonal one. If you see that the business is actually selling a winter related products, you still consider that yes, the business is actually considered that it sells what the user is looking for. It could be seasonal, but then if you can confirm that the product is available or the business actually sells the seasonal or rotating stock, then you would consider that the business is satisfying, or the product that the user is looking for is offered by the business. That is what we are supposed to check specifically for seasonal or rotating stock. If a query is a business name altogether, it is not about a product instead. If it is a business name, then we are supposed to consider that it is a category, or it should be a product or a brand. Even though it looks like a business name, treat it as a product or a brand. Like Nike, it is a business name, it has multiple stores, so you actually have to treat it as a product or a brand rather than a business name. So those are the basic steps that we have to follow before before we move on to creating something. So first we understand what is the query about, identify the important things that the query has included, clearly understand what is the user looking for, then go to the second step and see if your business has any of these special descriptors, ignore them. See if you have a used or antique thing that is not what the user is looking for, and then you see if the business is actually matching the type of category that you're looking for. And also be careful with say seasonal and rotational stocks. These are the steps that we follow. So let's get into the rating section. So the rating that we have is, does the query contain a specific store or a brand name, such as Walmart, Nike, Home Depot, etc. If the query contains any of these specific things, if yes is the answer, then we have to see how is the relationship between the query and the result. The store name matches. So if the store name directly matches to what you're looking for, then you can consider the query and the result have the same relation that the user is looking for. So if the query and the store name matches the store name in the query, such as Nike shoes in Nordstrom is a query for store in Nordstrom. So if the Nike shoes is the brand that you're looking for, so for which Nike store is actually a match. So if you're looking for Nike store in this particular location, so the user is looking for a branded store of shoes that is from Nike. So if you get a Nike store in the result section, then you call that it is a match because the store name is matching. You want Nike and you're getting a Nike store. So you're actually matching the business. Then you have to look for, if it is talking about cars, you have to look for an authorized dealer. So how do you look for an authorized dealer? As this is a category for all new cars. So if a user is looking for cars, trucks, industrial vehicles, any of those farm equipments, camps or trails or snowmobiles, etc., the store name always doesn't have the brand name. But if the dealer is actually selling the branded vehicle that the user is looking for, then you can give the rating as yes. The third type of result that you may see is different store names, but you're actually getting the brand that you're looking for. So the explanation for this particular one is, when a query is for a brand specifically, let's assume the query is for Nike shoes. So if it is like that and you're looking for, and there is another specific store that has this Nike shoes inside them, that is they are selling them. So in these particular cases, you consider that the intent, the store is actually selling what you're looking for. Or for queries such as car brands, such as Honda. So, and if the result is the same brand from a different product, which focuses on some Honda power equipment, Honda motorcycles, etc., then also you consider that it is a different store, but it has offers the same brand that I'm looking for, because the user has not specified what does he want. He said Honda. Honda can be anything. It could be a power equipment, it could be a motorcycle, etc. So in those particular cases, you consider that yes, it is what the user is looking for. So the next place where you think it is yes is it doesn't have the brand. So the product that is shown doesn't have the brand, but it doesn't have the exact specified product, or it is not the store that the user is looking for. So there are three cases in this particular one. First one, it doesn't have the brand. Second one, it has the brand but not the product that the user is specified. So if I'm looking for Nike, the brand, the store doesn't have the brand, or it has the brand. I am looking for Nike XYZ brand, XYZ model shoes, and the store doesn't have that particular model, but it has Nike in that case. Or is it is not the store that I'm specifying. If I want from Amazon, let's assume if I'm looking for from Amazon and you're not giving me from Amazon, but you're giving me the same product from a different brand. So if the result doesn't have the same brand or the branded product in the query, or if the brand is for the brand but from another store, so in those cases, as you're still having the brand or you're still having the product, you consider that as yes. For example, Nike shoes, the result doesn't carry Nike products or only carries Nike hats. For example, Nike shoes, Nordstrom. If Foot Locker was in the result, which has Nike, but it is not the same kind of Nike shoes that you're looking for. In that case also, you consider that as yes. Any non-branded store that is specified if the result is different store. So I'm looking for shoes from Nordstrom and the result is from Foot Locker. So in all these cases, the rating, you have to see how is the relationship between the query and the result. If the relationship between the query and result falls into any of these kind of these scenarios that I've said, then it would be a yes. So when would you say no? So no is a rating that is given when you see the product or product category or the product line the query contains a specific product. So in those cases, you consider that as a no. So we have some examples. You're looking for women's shoes. So is the result a store that specifies in the product or in the query? In those cases, how do you do? Yes, the store specializes the product that you're looking for. So the store is focused on the scope of the query. So the store has what you're looking for, but has a full selection of most of the things that people are looking for. So if the query is for office supplies, and the result talks about Office Max, which has papers, pens, inks, printers, furniture, computers, all these kinds that would supply in the office. So in these cases, you would say it is a product category or a product line, but your query is not actually looking for that product line or product category. So the second scenario in this is no, but has a selection store. So if the store has many departments, but okay, sorry for that interruption. So in this particular case, if the store has departments, but also not only has departments, but also departments focused on different department sections on the website. Or if the store specializes in a very smaller or very partial size of what the query is looking for. If the query is about office supplies and you're just giving me Acme copier and printer, so this is not exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a very broader thing where where the result has to satisfy the exact thing that I'm looking for. But in this result, you see that it is giving you only one of the brand's copiers and printers. So in this case, you would say no, but has a very selection of stores, and so the answer would be no, because it is focused to a particular product or product category than what the user is looking for. So this third step or third category that we have for this particular rating is when the store is dedicated to a different category than what the user is looking for. In those cases also, you would be rating it as no, because the product category that I am looking for is completely different from what you are actually giving me. So if the query is about purses, but the result is a shoe store, in those cases, you see purses and shoe stores are very different, even though few of the shoe stores actually sell purses, but it is a very smaller category that the user might be interested, because the main focus of a shoe store would be selling shoes and not purses. So the product category is completely different. Or if a user is looking for a used Ford truck and the result is a used car. So there are a lot of different categories for used truck and used car. So in these categories, when you see that the category itself is completely different, in those cases, you actually have to rate that as no, because they're not matching the categories of what I'm actually looking for. The fourth one, the result doesn't have the product itself. In those cases also, you rate that as no, the product is not what the user is looking for. So the product is not carried out in the stores, including when the website shows the product online only or through third-party sellers. So if the website says that the product has an online only thing or a third-party sellers, in those cases you would say it is no. If the query specifies any used or antique or pre-owned, etc., and the result is for a new item, then you say no, because that's not what the user is looking for, because he's looking for a used one. So a new one would be of higher cost for him in those cases. So that is why it should be a no. You can, or when you cannot say if they would actually be interested in the product that the result is selling. So if the user is looking for a cigar store and the result is about a florist. So in these cases, it is a complete product type mismatch, but as we do not know that whether the user is actually would be interested in the product that the result is selling, in those cases also it should be a complete no. That's the 4 categories for no. So in these 4 categories, if any of your result falls into any of these 4 categories, it would be no. Is product category or product line, the query contains a specific product. In these 4 cases, you would give this particular rating. So from this explanation, we would have understood that there is a lot of research that we have to put in whenever we are researching about the query or whenever we are researching about the result, or these could be, market or region specific. So how do you do research, or will I be able to get all those answers for me? Yes, the research is very important in this particular task. So how do you do research? The tool includes the research part, which makes life more easier for us. It's just a click away from us. So how do you do that is in this particular one. So whenever you wanted to understand the business, there is a button called search business, which will allow you to Google from a specific location that actually is not yours. So if you click on the search business that is available below your query, which I'll be showing you in the screenshot. So if you click on that, you will be directly redirected to a Google page where redirects you to the location that the user is at, and it is not the location that you currently are. So it makes our life more easier because we're getting a confined result the user is actually looking for. So that's the first research step that we're going to give. This search business is actually included in the tool, so you don't have to worry about it. So look at the page to see what kinds of businesses are nearby if they fulfill the query. So there are two different pages that are allowed for you to see the business details. So you can use those two different tabs to understand the business and see if they actually fulfill the query's intention or not. When we said you can actually search the business, there is also a Google research tab that is available for you. So sometimes what happens because of the regional settings or because of the website settings or because of few of the settings on the internet, there could be possibility that the Google shows no access message. In such cases, we have a quick step that you have to follow. There is this step where you have to enable this link where it says blocked by Google. Just click on this button, blocked by Google, which is just beside your Google button. And then you have enable research link by using a proxy. There are three proxies that are available, 1, 2, and 3. You can always use 1, 2, and 3 proxies to see, to allow you to see the research page that is actually blocked because of no access message. So this quick step will help you access the links that are actually not accessible. If it doesn't work, so even after this proxy thing has not worked, try clearing your cookies, try doing your research on a different tab. This trick has to work, or this tip has to work. If it doesn't work, in very less scenarios, you'll actually see that it doesn't work. So in those scenarios, when you see that it is not working, please open a new tab, clear all your cookies, clear all your history, and search in a new tab. Even if you don't get it after searching in a new tab also, you can always try an incognito tab that is there. We already know what an incognito tab is. So open an incognito tab and do your research. That could also help you in cases where you actually have no intention, no results that are being shown. If how do you research in cases if you're confused with the location, or if it doesn't, if the result is actually not giving you the location that you're looking for? You can always take the location from issued from, which is just after the query, which I'll show you. So your results will actually be given to the exact So your results will be actually being given to the specific location that you're looking for. So this research thing, let's quickly look at those different tabs that I can use before I go into the. Yeah. So in this page, if you see, this is where you have Google. So if you click on this Google tab that you can see here, you will automatically be taken to a Google page where it is redirected to this location that the user is looking for. So if this Google page, so if you click on this tab that is there here, if you click on it and you're not able to access the Google page, then you have to just check this box that is there here, blocked by Google, enable research link. Check this box and then use the proxy settings. You have 3 proxies, like set proxy 1, 2, and 3. After setting proxy 1, you can just click on Google and see if the page opens. If the page doesn't open in proxy 1, try 2 and 3, where you can get the Google page that is enabled to the location that you're looking for. That's the first step that we said. And the second one, while researching on Google page, if you are not able to get the Google page opened here, if you're trying it on a new Google page, if you yourself are trying and not using the tool Google and you are using a Google by yourself, you can use the location from this particular thing called issued from. This is where you get the actual location, where does this query or where is this query issued from. So you can use this location details whenever you're searching for your query. And then you have two tabs here, primary website and the business details. You can use these two tabs to understand the result. So for you to come to a conclusion on what is the result and how is the store and is it giving the exact thing that the user is looking for, yes or no, or is it a seasonal thing that happens? So all those questions can be answered here on the primary website, and business details will give you a full information of how and what is the business about. All right. So this is where your research can happen. If the research is not happening from a tool point of view, please clear all your cookies in history, like discussed, open a new tab and research for the query. Use the location of that is here in the issued from to get a better result. That's quickly about the task. Thank you all for attending this webinar. I hope your questions were answered. If you still have questions that are unanswered, you can write to us at crowdsupport@zen3tech.com, which is 24/7 support team. And do not forget to like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram for further updates on webinars. Thank you so much.